Hello, my name is Colby Hartman, here to introduce you to our topic Spotify versus YouTube. We had one basic question for this data set that we had found, which was what factors influence the success of a song? Now, first things first, we have to understand the data set. So here are some examples of the kind of data we were working with. We had an artist column, different things like the name of the track, the name of the album the track was on, album type, whether it was single versus an album. Some of them were compilations. Things like danceability, which measures between 0 and 1, 1 being the most danceable. Same thing with energy, 0 to 1. And then we have some YouTube data that correlates with the same songs. The URL of the song, the title of the song, channel, views, likes, comments, description of the song, whether it was licensed or not, whether it was an official video or not, and then the number of streams. So we had to come up with a fundamental kind of definition of success for this analysis to work. And this is how we did that. So we took Spotify streams, we added it with YouTube views, and that gave us our overall success rank. And then we added that into a data frame. You can see here, we combined the views and streams, just add them together into their own column. And then we had separate YouTube ranks, Spotify ranks, but here's what's important is our overall rank. And that was our measure of success, along with the combined views and streams. So I'm going to hand it off to Brian, and he's going to talk about the cleaning a little bit and the analysis that he performed.
The next thing we needed to do was clean the data. And what we went about doing so was removing any NA values and replacing them with zeros, adding rank columns for YouTube, Spotify, and overall, and then removing any duplicates when there were tracks that came up with two artists. They would have duplicate soundtracks like Despacito being 1 and 2. For my analysis, I took a look at streams versus views, and I started off the analysis by taking a look at the top 20 songs across both views and streams, as well as looking them independently for top 20 on YouTube, as well as Spotify. An interesting thing I noticed is there were only 2 songs that made it on the top 20 for both Spotify and YouTube independently. Can you guess which songs? They are both by Ed Sheeran, Shape of You and Thinking Out Loud. I found this interesting, and seeing the side-by-side comparison, I noticed that that YouTube definitely had a larger influence on the data. As you see, Psy has number 6 on YouTube, and Spotify is 1.5K. So YouTube has a larger audience and generating more views over Spotify streams. And then taking a deep look into that a little bit further, we have 2 new top performers for Spotify's songs as well as YouTube's, which I found interesting, and wanted to then look at the correlation between the data to see how correlated streams and views exactly were. And from this, I ran a linear regression to see how correlated they are. They're a little bit correlated with a slope of 0.54 and an R value of 0.34. I wouldn't say they're overly correlated though. And from this, it was interesting to see the performance of each of the different channels independently, as well as how well they are correlated between it.
So my kind of analysis question was whether or not danceability has an effect on the overall success of a song. Here's our data frame. You can see I've sorted it here by danceability at the top, and then again we're going to compare it to our measure of success, which is combined views and streams. And so you'll see here we have danceability here at the bottom, measured between 0 and 1, and then combined views and streams in terms of billions because it gets into the billions. So it, as you see, doesn't go above about 10 billion here, but we want to include every data point. So it looks like there's not much of a correlation. Most of it sits under this 2 billion range, and then you have some that kind of go above it, but it doesn't increase as danceability increases. It remains kind of stagnant. So then we just looked at whether or not there were any other correlations. And next we looked at energy in combined views and streams, and again we just put it on a scatter plot. We see here that there's still not much of a correlation. Now the ones that kind of spike fall in between 0.6 and 0.8, and that's great, but then it kind of falls off. So what does all this mean? This kind of means that these 3 factors, danceability, tempo, and energy, don't really have an effect on the success of an individual song. There are definitely commonalities in the data, and there are some trends, but overall, the bigger picture, they don't have an effect on the success of a song?
Hello. My research question was, what are the top 10 albums from this dataset based on the combined Spotify streams and YouTube views? This data set is organized by individual song tracks, not albums. So we removed the duplicates and grouped the data by albums and created a bar chart visualization. First, we created an album data frame from the clean data frame. And next, we took out the singles because album type can be album or single. Then we grouped the songs by album by using group by and sort them by combined views and streams. Then from the sorted list, we got the top 10 and a table output as these 10 albums. Then we made a bar chart using matplotlib. But the challenges of the bar chart that it has album name, but not the artist name. When grouping by album, we lost the artist column. So I made a VLOOK table, and you see the artists are next to the albums. Inside, two albums are Spanish speaking by Bad Bunny and Louis Fonsi, while the rest is English speaking. Further analysis would like to compare the top 10 albums sold, like a SoundScan dataset or Billboard dataset.
Hello. The question I am answering is whether a single or album is more successful. Our group defines success as Spotify streams plus YouTube views, and we noted it as combined views and streams. I use this as a measure of success and the overall top 100 single and album to determine which track origin is more successful. Next, I filter out for the top 100 consisting of singles and albums. When filtering out the data for the top 100, the output collapsed the data because the return was so large. To finally answer my question on which is more successful, I used a bar chart to visualize all the data. X label is the track origin, aka single or album, while the Y label is the combined views and streams in billions, aka our determination for success. My conclusion is albums are more successful, leading with 50 billion views in the top 100, more than double the amount of singles with 20 billion. My challenge when filtering out this data is that the data shows the summation and not the individual contribution, which would require further cleaning and plotting.
Next, let's move to analysis of official YouTube song versus non-official YouTube song. Our question is, what is the ratio of success between official and unofficial YouTube video song out of top 100 songs? Video that is not uploaded by artist himself or doesn't have recording label is unofficial video song. We started our analysis by cleaning the data. We renamed columns that were named vaguely to make dataset understandable. We visualized using bar chart as it was true-false dataset, and we just needed the count of true-false values. It is obvious that mostly official YouTube videos would be successful than unofficial YouTube videos. However, 4 unofficial YouTube video has made it to top 100 most listened song on YouTube. Ratio of success between official and unofficial YouTube video song is 25-1. Moving to the most interesting API part of the analysis. We scraped the data from an API to get followers count. We were trying to find if there is a correlation between artists, followers count, and most listened artist on Spotify. Followers count were not available on Spotify dataset that we used. So we used URL link given in dataset to get artist ID and used it to get followers data of artist from Spotify API. First, we filtered top 100 songs on Spotify. Then we split the URL Spotify columns to get artist ID. We create a data frame containing artist name and followers we got from API. We created two side-by-side bar chart to find out if the most followed artists on Spotify are also the most listened uh, artists on Spotify. Around 80% artists that are most followed on Spotify has also the most number of streams on Spotify. Only Ed Sheeran was able to make it to top 5 most followers list and top 5 most listened artists as well. The limitation of this data set is that this is from Spotify only. It would be interesting to know most followed artists across all social media platforms. Probably rest of 20% of most listened artists have better social media following on other platforms. The most challenging and interesting part was to use API from Spotify artist link given in dataset. It would have been even better if the API had data for genre in track ID endpoint.